Subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, please visit our website, heartbeatradio.org.
Tune in for Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything.
Accept your intelligence.
Coming up, the psychology of cruelty.
The greatest cruelty happens when perpetrators forget their victims are human and treat them like trash.
I think it's worse than that. Perpetrators can be cruel even when they remember the humanity of their victims.
So what goes on in the minds of the truly cruel?
The psychology of cruelty, next time on Philosophy Talk.
You're so cruel.
Listen to Philosophy Talk today at noon on KSJE 90.9 FM, Farmington. This program is supported by MyLabs, patient-ordered testing. San Juan Regional Medical Center is expanding its services to offer low-cost blood screenings year-round. Now offering walk-in convenience to get the blood tests you want when you want them. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, is available at the hospital's laboratory and the Outpatient Diagnostic Center on 30th Street in Farmington. With nearly 20 tests available, there's an option for everyone. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, a wellness service of San Juan Regional Medical Center. 50 minutes past 8 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. This is KSJE 90.9 FM. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for tuning in, and good morning to our viewers who are watching us this morning live on the KSJE Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Welcome aboard. Coming up in just a moment, my guest today from the Aztec Municipal School District. We have Deputy Superintendent Tania Prokop here in the studio with us. Also, Jonathan Acrey. He is the Exceptional Programs Director with Aztec Schools. We'll be talking with them in just a moment. But first, a couple of reminders for you, of course. We want you to remember you can be watching us on Facebook and YouTube this morning. Also coming up in just a few moments at the end of the hour, we'll be talking with folks at the Farmington Regional Animal Shelter about some of the pets that they have available this week. And later on at 9 a.m., Mick Hess will be here roving with the arts, and he'll be talking a little bit about Bach Cantatas numbers 9 and 10 music for you at 9 here on KSJE. You can always check out our programming schedule by going to our website at ksje.com. That's also where you'll find our regional events calendar, and I want to show you that as well as we check that out. And for folks who are watching, you can see that exactly right now. Let's see if I can get it here. Or not. But I think I will. There it is. Let's take a look and see our regional events calendar at ksje.com, and here it is. And we scroll through it a little bit. You can see some of the events that we want to talk to you a little bit about today, and that would include some of the things, including these events. Focus on Farmington Coffee happening tomorrow at the Bridge Assisted Living here in Farmington, so we invite you to check that out. More details, of course, on our regional events calendar. Also, Relief from Joint Pain event happening at San Juan Regional Medical Center on September the 19th. There's a Money Matters workshop at the Sycamore Park Community Center in Farmington. Also, Global Kirky is happening at the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque on September 21st. And those are just a few of the many events, as you can see, on our regional events calendar at ksje.com. Well, now let me turn to my guests who are here in the studio with us this morning, and we welcome back to the KSJE microphones and welcome to our new visual radio studio, Deputy Aztec Superintendent Tania Prokop. Good morning.
Morning, Scott. Good to be here this morning.
Thank you for being with us and experiencing all that a visit to KSJE brings these days, right?
It's a great studio, Scott. It really looks wonderful.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being here, and we think this will hopefully help with more engagement for our community, and we're looking forward to all the cool things that we can do with this new space. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Also here in the studio for his very first time, Jonathan Acrey is here. He's Exceptional Programs Director with Aztec Schools. Jonathan, good morning to you.
Good morning. How's it going?
Very well. Thank you for coming in. And
thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here as well. You and I have been kind of geeking geeking out a little bit about this equipment earlier. So
I think it's absolutely amazing. I'm in love with you guys' new location here, and the setup you have is just exceptional.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And again, we hope it's just the first step of many that we can take and serve the community even better. And that's what local radio is all about. So it's great to have you both here to talk about some of the things happening in Aztec schools. And Tania, Prokop, one of the things is this new Aztec preschool that has been developed at the Aztec School District that is open now this fall, right?
Absolutely. First time ever. We're in the business of educating kiddos, so it only made sense that we put in for a grant so that we could open up our doors to real little ones, some preschool kiddos. And I'm really going to turn it over to Jonathan. He was the one that was in charge of writing the grant and kind of quarterbacking the whole event throughout the district. And then, of course, Superintendent Carpenter gave his blessings to all that work.
Yeah.
Very good. Mr. Acrey, talk to me a little bit about that. So this is up and running, and you wrote the grant. This is something new then for the school district.
It is. It is. So what we are doing is we're working to make sure that we have preschool available for all kiddos. And one of the things that we were really focused on was, you know, research shows really clearly that preschool helps make sure that kiddos have a really great start to school. And so as we were looking ahead at what we could do to help better our district and our community, it felt like preschool was something that we could focus on. So what we did was we ended up partnering with some of our local businesses who also offer pre-K services, and we kind of looked at where was the gap that businesses weren't able to cover in the community. And then what we did was we worked on writing a grant to kind of fill that gap. The goal was to just make sure we were doing right by our folks and getting education in place for our kiddos. And oh gosh, so far I think we're off to a great start. I'm pretty proud of what we've got pulled together here.
Nice. How many spots do you have at the preschool? So
currently we have 80 slots open, and in addition to the 80 slots, we also are servicing and working to make sure that we're meeting the needs of any little kiddos who may also have disabilities. And so,
along with the kindergartner and the fourth grader and maybe the middle school student, and they're all coming to school together. It's also working with our curriculum. So you're working with the same curriculum from pre-K all the way up. You know, a lot of times Kirk reminds the community that we're all former coaches. Many of us are former coaches. So it's almost like that athletic analogy of building the team. And so you start out with the fundamentals as it works its way through the whole way. And it's also, they're at the same school. So our preschool is held at Lydia Rippey Elementary and McCoy. Mm-hmm. So when that kiddo starts out at the age of 3, 4, they'll stay at that same school all the way through till 3rd grade. And so just that consistency. There's also research that shows that transitional years, when you go from 3rd grade to 4th grade, which is a different school, and then from 5th grade to 6th grade, which is another movement of schools, there's always some setback. There's always a little bit of a setback. And so I think it's really neat that a kiddo coming in at age 3 stays at that same school, sees that same faculty, works with the same principal and leadership. It's really a sense of family, the school family. So from the age of 3 all the way up to like the age of 9, 10, they're at the same place. So that consistency.
Interesting. And by having this as part of the Aztec School District, I guess it gives you a bit more control over the instruction, some of the programs, some of the activities that are happening at the preschool?
Absolutely. We're building our bench, right? And so everything that the preschool does, it's preparing them for kindergarten. Everything that kindergarten's doing, it's preparing them for 1st grade. So exactly what you said, Scott. You know, these shows have really shown me how equipped you are in the world of education. Well, you've got the lingo down, and you've got everything going.
It's only taken 11 years, but thank you. Thanks for your patience with me.
Absolutely, not a problem.
But that's important. And Jonathan, I mean, talk to me a little bit about this whole project then. I mean, it was a grant-funded program, right, and now it's up and running. And so are there plans to maybe do this for more spots, or to expand it, or just wait and see how this first group does?
That's a really great question. So from the get-go, the plan was to really make sure that we were filling that gap and making sure that every kid in our community in Aztec had an opportunity to be able to have access to free preschool. Now that we've achieved that, really right now what we're focusing on is making sure that program is as polished and high quality as possible. And then from there, as time goes on, if we continue seeing that need, a kind of a gap in need, then we plan to expand to make sure we fill that gap. But the goal has always been to just make sure that we're partnering with our community to just get those needs met.
Right, right. And just because this is a new program with Aztec schools doesn't mean that it's a preschool program for students going into Aztec schools. Has been around for a long time. And so you've seen what that can do for your incoming kindergartners, I suppose.
Bet. They come in at a whole different level. Just that ready for school, and it's not that homes aren't preparing kiddos. It's so much more than that. It's instruction as a whole group. So it's learning almost the etiquette of a classroom, of getting into line, being a quiet line, walking down hallways, sitting as a group.
Which most don't have to do at home.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Before they get to kindergarten, right?
And so it's really just that schoolroom etiquette, and you know, if you're having a bad day and you walk into a preschool classroom, I mean, I don't even.
How can your bad day continue after that?
It doesn't, right? And I don't even hold back. I just get on the rug with them and play with blocks, and you know, I walk out just a little bit better human.
Right.
But it's really, you know, even when you talk about it, you can't help but kind of grin and have a happy face. It's the same way with kindergarten and all those early ages. The excitement for coming to school and learning, and you know, they're just kind of growing up, and they're also positive. The other thing in our district is all the teachers and educational assistants, they're all licensed. So they've got the educational background, they've got the license from the public education department, and it wasn't hard to fill those vacancies.
No.
Staff were excited. Existing staff was looking for a transfer. They were not hard positions to fill in the district at all.
Well, probably for the reasons you give. It brightens your day when you're dealing with those.
You just smile.
Absolutely.
That could be.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, these are, they're not there for the full day, right? This is a shorter...
No, it's a half-day program, yeah. So one of the things that we did as we started the process of putting the program together was we ended up surveying parents in our community. And when we did that, one of the things that we asked was whether we saw that a half-day program would be more beneficial or a full day. And kind of overwhelmingly, we had a lot of folks in our community come back and say, you know, half-day seems more appropriate to focus on preschool, to focus on those learning-to-learn skills that Tania talked about. And so using that advice, we went ahead and framed our program around that, rather than, you know, stretching it to a full day, which then starts to feel a little more like daycare and less like preschool, and prepping our kids to learn.
Right. But that's important to have that community input, I suppose, as you're putting something brand new like this together.
Well, and we really leaned on that community input quite a bit, because one of the key things for us is, again, we were committing that the plan was with this to do right by our folks, and so having their voice help guide us in that process, we felt was really essential. And so we went ahead and put those surveys out. We reviewed and poured over those surveys and kind of dissected a lot of that information, and then with that used the feedback that we received to really guide the direction that we were going. And really, I appreciate actually the feedback that we got from the community. It was exceptional. I've surveyed for a number of things in my time in the office, and this was one that we got an overwhelming response back on. I had a wealth of information to work with, and it was really exciting.
Very good. And this is all since when? You started working on this beginning of summer, or how long have you known about this grant?
A great question. So, please, as my boss, don't judge me too terribly much. I have what I call Friday projects. And I call them Friday projects because, you know, Friday at about 3 o'clock, I'm still at work, and I'm a public employee, so it's important to me to make sure that I continue working and do right by taxpayers and that kind of thing. But sometimes I'm not really feeling my regular day-to-day project, and so
that'll be reflected in your next
Oh no! So preschool started off as my Friday project.
I see.
And what it was just this idea as I started really looking at district information and going, where can we do better And as I kind of stumbled upon preschool, I got excited about it and started talking with Miss Prokop and Mr. Carpenter and other folks in district. And as we continued talking, it kind of started to gain momentum and a life of its own. And we started that back in, August or so right about a year ago.
Okay.
And then really started to get momentum on the project about February of this last year. So, and then once it got momentum, there was so many folks who were, while Ms. Prokop appropriately said I helped kind of put the grant together, the reality is there was so many folks who were helping me out along the way. I had Miss Englehart, our
curriculum and instruction.
Goodness
Right.
gracious, why could I not get a hold of that?
That's all right.
Curriculum instruction director, she was just amazing and helped me pull information together. Mr. Laws, our transportation director, oh my goodness, I would show up with weird stuff saying, all right, we need to add a whole slew of kids to our routes, and every time he wouldn't even bat an eye. We'll figure it out, we'll make sure we're getting kids back and forth to school, and we'll do it in a timely manner. And Mr. Banish, our director of operations, I showed up, we're going to need to start considering overhauling a playground and getting things set up for kiddos and maybe looking at adjusting fencing. And again, didn't bat an eye. Absolutely, we'll get going on that. So lots of folks contributed to make it a reality, and over the course of this last year, we just kind of incrementally worked on it and iterated on the project until it became a reality.
Very good. Well, and it just goes to show how many different moving parts there are to a project like this. And Tania Prokop, again, for the school district, for the administration to be able to support something like this, I guess it helps when it's paid for. Or
Yeah.
a funding source or something with a grant or something, because there's not a lot of dollars rolling around school districts these days in New Mexico.
Sure, and Kirk is really great at talking about the funding for public education. And, our enrollment numbers aren't quite where we'd like them to be. So, that'll kind of hit us next school year. So anytime you can qualify and receive funding outside of your piggy bank, it's definitely kind of a breath of fresh air and kind of a load off of your shoulders as well.
And does that ensure that this program will continue if the grant funding continues?
It should, yes.
Okay.
So the idea is that now, once the startup cost a lot of times for a program in school is the thing that is the biggest hurdle to get past. Not always, but generally that's kind of the biggest hurdle.
Sure.
And so once we've been able to get past that initial startup, then generally speaking things start to kind of become self-sustaining. So as we were working on this project, that was another individual who helped me quite a bit is Evelyn Garcia, our finance director. And oh my goodness, spent a lot of hours sitting in her office picking her brain about how we could make sure that this was something that, as long as the state continued having dollars, we would be able to continue doing.
Good.
And I like the words that Jonathan used about self-sustaining. I think that any time an organization puts into place something new, you always have to be mindful of what if.
Right.
And if it's important enough, how would we continue to sustain it? And I think the numbers that are coming in and Jonathan's use of some different funding entities that qualify, it always helps that, okay, if we have to break into our own piggy bank, how's that going to look? And will we be able to do it? So it's always definitely in the forefront when you put yourself out there.
Very important. My guest this morning from the Aztec Municipal School District, we are talking with Deputy Superintendent Tania Prokop and also Exceptional Programs Director Jonathan Acrey. And there's a lot more topics to discuss this morning, but we have to take a short break. So we're going to do that. When we come back, though, there is a new app that is being introduced to students in school districts throughout San Juan County, as a matter of fact. We're going to talk about that and some other topics as well. So back with my guest with more in just a moment here on KSJE. The time is 8:32.
Hi,